lives, that'd be, just get a full spectrum. What's up? What's up, Kasha? Kasha or Kasia?
Okay. I'm finding an insert.
There we go.
Um, I often think about that. I think about how social media has impacted the way we process emotions as well,
Mm-hmm.
and how we share and express. But then I notice that when I do see people that do share the harsh realities of life, it often begins to feel a little bit like trauma porn,
Mm-hmm.
or like a brand. It almost starts to feel like a brand. It's like, okay, this is like their shtick.
Yeah, I mean, it's like there's this aspect where it's like it doesn't, when someone seems to be emoting on social media, it generally doesn't feel authentic.
Yeah.
And so there's judgment on my end because the nature of those realities in us are sort of personal. And so the act of broadcasting it, even if it is untrue, right, it is authentic, to me is like a human being who would generally hide that space. It's like there's a weird mistrust of that, like, blazing authenticity, if we say it's authenticity.
I had a conversation with my mum a few months ago. There was a footballer in the UK who had like a domestic violence incident with his partner, and they're younger than, they're like 20s, early 20s. So I spoke to my mum and she was like, I don't understand. Like she didn't call the police. She went on Instagram. Like, she was like, she must be lying. And I said that generation often that's their community.
Mm-hmm.
That's I can understand why she would think that would like vindicate her by talking on Instagram. That's who she speaks to.
Yeah.
And that's where she feels heard. So, but my mum really couldn't get. My mum, who doesn't use social media, was like, well, why would you do that? Because it was performative.
I mean, this is all tethered to, what's up, everyone? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Sweet. Yeah, we're just talking about social media. We'll get to Aurelius in a little bit. Just give everyone else a couple more minutes. But I guess this is a nice transition. It's like, as we all get older and move through time, the impact of our environments, and right now we're dealing with technology, and the structure of our societies becomes more obvious because we have like more time to be in the experiment, essentially, and more time to interact with the consequences. And in that, the sort of magic of generational difference, like perspective difference, becomes more obvious too. It's like, oh, we're not all the same, but I can't know that until I'm old enough to sense the generation before me, sense the generation behind me, and actually experience the uniqueness of my perspective. Again, like speaking generationally. And so it's like, okay, we don't understand technology the way the youth does, but we understand it in a different way than like our grandparents do. And then, and this is the transition, hopefully it flies, there are things that seem to be immune to the there seems to be wisdom and knowledge and perspectives that are timeless, essentially. Whether you are in a technological reality, whether you are in a rural world, whether you're off planet, whether you're in some like virtual existence, perennial wisdom, that's what it is. It's like wisdom that will always make sense to the human organism. And I think that's what Aurelius is trying to tap into, and what Stoics were trying to sort of hit. There are key features, key qualities, key ways of being that always work. And rooting into that sameness, I think, is powerful. Cool. So good morning, day 2, 6:45 Pacific Coast, super early. That in itself is amazing. Let's get into it. So I just wanted to review yesterday's concepts around meditation, just to keep that fresh in everyone's mind. Again, there's like this trifecta of experiences that you'll interact with. right? You'll interact with controlled thoughts. So that's like, what are you trying to think about? What are you trying to focus on? What are you trying to feel? Okay, and then it'll shift. Inevitably, you'll move into spontaneous thinking. What you will think of on your own, what your brain will think of on its own. And just understanding these are inevitabilities and not wrong. I think that's the big point, not wrong. Controlled thought, spontaneous thought, and then sensation. And sometimes these three territories overlap each other, and you're like feeling sensation and at the same time thinking spontaneously. And then you're still thinking spontaneously, but then you try to impose a controlled thought, but you're still feeling. But through the, labeling of these spaces that are inevitable, I hope what this does is makes the entire practice one more understandable, approachable, and innocent. It's all good, whatever's going on in there. And that peace, that innocence, permits an openness, and that's what we're going for, an openness. Okay. Check. And so the second point is, when you are in this open space, like mentally tolerant of what is happening, you initiate the actual process of emptying the cup. Right? We've all heard of this. Emptying the cup, empty your mind, this sort of thing. Essentially what that is a cooled down nervous system physically, and again a mind that is tiptoeing away from like intellectual processing. And so some concepts, some words that might help us interact with the empty cup and what ought to fill the empty cup. You know, when you interact with an idea, and let's use the example of yesterday's session, which was essentially change. We all discussed change. The beauty of nature's law. Things must evolve. And so, when the mind is empty, and again, that's a feeling, when you are tolerant, not too rigid with needing to understand, needing to label, and rest in and these are like the synonyms that might trigger a new perspective or a new relationship with this concept, the essence of change itself, not the specifics of change, but can you feel the anima, the spirit of what it is to change? And so you might feel the gears of your mind start churning, the teeths of each gear cinching into each other, and questions emerge. What kind of change? What does that mean? How does that work? Why is that happening? Intellect. But before that questioning happens, very quickly, like a flash of lightning, there is an explosive knowing of what change is in the first place. So I hope that makes sense. And so Alan Watts talks about this, and he talks, and maybe this metaphor will also help us sort of interact with this idea of quality, and that's the word we're going to use, quality. Essence is another word. Spirit of the thing is another way of phrasing it. The anima of a thing. Like, what is the spirit of an apple versus the spirit of a grape? What is its essence? You can feel it. Sounds sort of, what's the word? Sort of random, almost unuseful to think of the spirits of apples and grapes. But if you actually take the time, relax your nerves, you're like, okay, there is a qualitative shift in each. So anywho, Alan Watts talks about this, and he uses the metaphor of vision, like literal biological vision, to support this. And so when you're in a bright space, your eyes function like directionally, in the sense that you focus on what is in front of you and everything else kind of gets blurred out. So you want to think about crossing the road, you want to think about driving, right? There's a target, there's a focus point. It is enriched with specifics, everything else pulled away. And then if you're in like a dark space, you think about walking through the forest or on the beach at dusk. Not pitch black. You can see it's that sort of soft indigo light, so everyone's kind of there in their mind. So your eyes function differently. The eyes no longer fixate on a specific point in front of you, but peripheral vision emerges and you sort of see on a wider plane, but everything overall is less specific. And so I just want you to think of that and reflect upon that as like a lived experience. We all have had to have experienced that. And again, the quality of it. Like, okay, yeah, when I'm driving, I look at the red light, I look at the green light, I look at the cars in front of me. It's hyper focused on objects. And then maybe when I'm walking in the trails at dusk or on the beach at night, yeah, there is like an openness, less focus, a little more blurry, soft vision or peripheral vision. And so when you're trying to, and so that's a feeling, right? There's information, but there's also a feeling of shifting between these two types of seeing. And so there's a feeling involved in shifting through these two types of thinking, directional thinking and peripheral thinking. Directional thinking, peripheral thinking. And so to understand the essence of perennial wisdom, to really connect to that knowledge, most masters, most lineages encourage, at least at some point in the process, that you approach this first peripherally. Learn to feel what change is. Sit there when you're like literally meditating. Learn to feel that you are changing. Learn to feel sort of blurry goodness. Learn to feel the anima, the spirit of duty. And so the goal of this, month is we're sort of fusing meditation with the philosophies of a Roman ruler who was very action-oriented. And hopefully, you become action-oriented towards the themes that we talk about in your day when you are in action. But in these morning sessions, we are sort of in non-action, non-being. We're just sitting there. And so in that time, you're sort of infusing essence. Cool. So that's all. Quality, and that's the term. The quality of whatever theme we're talking about. Learn to feel that. You have to think peripherally, softly, openly, anonymously almost. And that is what we're filling the empty cup of our relaxed nerves with. And if we are less reactive to the shifting of our mental experience, controlled thinking, spontaneous thinking, and sensation while we're meditating, right? The cup empties and we can fill it with quality. So I hope that layered metaphor actually resonates in you. You can feel the quality of it, and we can apply that now. So moving forward from yesterday's theme, yesterday's quote was, nature's job to shift things elsewhere, to transform them, to pick them up and move them here and there. So that is nature's essence. A core tenet of Stoicism is a deep reverence and trust in nature, the power of nature, but that power is tethered to concepts of fate and providence. And so that whatever change is happening to me, it is sort of destined. It's a personal legacy. And so into the next theme, the next quote, if we interact with that current of nature, that current of fate well, intentionally, consciously, it leads us to goodness. And so we're going to sort of process this idea of goodness, and I want us to reflect on whatever, we highlighted or journaled essentially yesterday about change. There was a conversation Brandon brought up about anxiety and managing that, and then a conversation Kyle brought up about procrastination and working with procrastination, but also observing procrastination. You can see that when we discuss change, we are also in this discussion of what is good and what is bad, what is right and what is wrong, because we want to move in a certain direction. And generally, if we recognize we are moving towards the bad, that supports an understanding of how to maneuver and pivot into the good. And if we are discussing that we are changing for the better, there is a sense of accomplishment in that and excitement in that. And so there is this proclivity to goodness that comes from nature, which again is tethered to fate and providence. And that fate is opened to the individual through the development of their character, right? So this is sort of like Stoic basics. Sweet. And so here are the quotes today. A little harsh, perhaps strict. This is what you deserve. You could be good today, but instead choose tomorrow. This is what you deserve. You could be good today, but instead choose tomorrow. And so you're like, the Emperor of Rome is writing this to himself. Possibly the most powerful man on the planet is scolding himself. You could be good today, Marcus, but no. You're still choosing tomorrow. Cool, and then the next is to stop talking about what the good man or woman, the good man is like, and just be one. To stop talking about what the good person is like and just be one. And so again, good is not described because he is speaking one to himself, so he has his own concepts that don't need to be re-explained. But for the reader, just sense its quality. What is goodness? What does it feel like to be good? Cool, so what we're going to do is we're going to take 3 minutes again, and you're just going to process. This is the prompt. We have 2 prompts. What is good? We're going to write that down. To you, what is good? And then the second is, what can I do today to be the good person? What is good? And what can I do today to be the good person? All right, so I'll set the timer, 3 minutes, and then we'll get into meditating on goodness. What is good? 3 minutes has started. 30 more seconds. So try to route the whole time. Be in the practice of allowing the mind to flow, hearing that flow, and putting it on paper. Okay. Beautiful. All done. So does anyone want to share? There's 2 questions. Let's just share the first part. What is goodness? Or what is the good?
I'll share.
All right, Sophia.
Alright, let's see. Good is to live fully and presently, to embrace each day and whatever it brings with mindfulness and the courage of true presence, to be self-aware and conscious of thoughts, words, and actions. This is what it means to be good, for you are living fully, and that is the purpose of it all.
Amazing. And so something that just comes up is we hear that as words, but are we in the practice of feeling that as experience, feeling the essence of what is said? Sort of like this heart opening process. And so if you want to read it one more time, Sophia, and then everyone else listening, it's like you are trying to sense the essence of the words. The words hold a spirit. The words hold a reality of meaning and emotion and memory. That's how we understand and can connect to these languages. And if we put a little more energy, it takes a little skill too, we can learn to feel them in a more profound and integrated way. So.
Good is to live fully and presently, to embrace each day and whatever it brings, with mindfulness and the courage of true presence, to be self-aware and conscious of thought, word, and action is to be good. This is what it means to be good, for you are living fully, and that is the purpose of it all.
Beautiful. The courage to be present. That's what stuck out for me. And it's like, oh yeah, it does take a little courage, like to be more present now. All of us, be more present right now. And there's a shedding of our own thoughts, a shedding of our own sort of management of time. That's a big one for me. How much time is left in this little challenge? Well, it's 10:08. I'm like behind schedule. Nonsense. We're here. The courage to be where we are. Cool. So does anyone want to share the second prompt? What can you do today to be that good thing? Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. I'm gonna pick someone.
Hey, it's Julian.
What's up, Julian?
Actually, I wanted to add to the first one that there's definitely a sense of effort that came, in particular, I think, from the perspective of an emperor and somebody who's in a position of high responsibility. I guess life is a lot of effort. But to be good also, to me, is like there's an ease and effortlessness that we tap into. It doesn't have to be constant work. It doesn't have to be courage and pushing. It can just like be relaxing. And so, to me, that's what we can do to be good, is just to relax, to really delve into it all, and be vulnerable with that. And it does take courage, but it's also something that is easy, letting go of a resistance to the goodness.
That's amazing. Who resonates with that? Make it easy. Easy is good. The way of Zen is easy. The way of Zen is easy. It's a very popular statement in Zen. If it's hard, you might not be on the way of Zen. Cool. Who wants to do, again, share how you can be good today? Ticket, 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 ticket. All right. Countdown. 3. I'm going to pick someone.
Sure. I think the first thing that came to mind is like when you have kids and you're married, you always have to think of putting your kid first before like your ego or your emotions or what you're going through, because they don't ask to be born. They shouldn't have to deal with all like the issues that come with that adults have. So I think that is what it takes to be a good person. To put that all aside, to be mindful, to be present as much as you can.
For the well-being of the ones you love. That's what I'm getting.
Sorry?
For the well-beings of like your children specifically, for others.
Totally.
And I think that's what Aurelius was dealing with too. He's like responsible for Rome. He's the last, before him there were 4 emperors that stabilized Rome into this era of peace. And so he's coming at the tail end of that, and I imagine feels this duty to maintain that peace. That time is called the Pax Romana. And I imagine a lot of this sort of self-discovery and self-study was in the name of maintaining peace for Rome. He had to be an outstanding leader. Cool, and I'll just share what I said. Kind of gets what goes where you were going, Amy, for the second question. I can help those around me out with their duties to be good. I can help those around me out with their duties. I can watch for moments of difficulty in myself and others and take action to help. To help is to be good. To like subdue the chaos of the world. Open the door for someone, like little tiny things. Pick up some garbage. Say hi. Be good. And again, back to quality, like we also don't have to discuss this. We can just feel goodness. Cool. So what we're going to do is you're going to meditate. And I just want you to sense this sort of Eastern-Western fusion. You're going to meditate like a Zen master. You're going to meditate like a Taoist practitioner, meaning you are in that state that I think all of you are familiar with. The spirit, the blank slate, the empty cup, the silent bell. Notice your mind, noticing any and all sensation, good or bad, uncomfortable or pleasurable. Notice your mind thinking the thoughts it always thinks. Now, controlled thinking. Direct your thoughts, direct your attention into the quality of goodness. That there is goodness in this moment, a sort of spirit, a goodness in your steady breath, but it's not the steady breath. a goodness in the quiet morning, but it's not the quiet morning. It is a spirit of goodness, a quality of pleasantness. To stop talking about what the good man is like and just be one. Okay, let's take a deep breath in together, slow exhale together. Embrace the three spaces of your practice: sensation, controlled thought, spontaneous thought. When you are in that state of control, conscious in your practice, think of the goodness, feel it, be it. Notice sensation. So that is happening. And a meditator is someone in the river of the Tao, of the way, does not resist the happening of sensation. And that sensations change. An itch comes, a pressure comes, it goes, coldness comes, a shiver comes. Change. Then there is thought. Notice spontaneous thought. The wild mind. It is also happening. Then there is the intention, controlled thought back to goodness. Stop talking about what the good man is like and just be one. Slow the breath. to relax your nerves, to settle the mind, to empty the cup. Slow your breath. Feel this. To relax your nerves, to settle the mind, to empty the cup. And now the themes, the milk pouring into the bowl, the nutrition in the cup of change. Life changes, but it evolves. It changes towards goodness. Peripheral thinking, it's just felt, undefined but felt. Three more breaths. With an inhale, open your eyes. Okay. Cool. I'm fascinated by the mechanics of this process of personal development. Like, where does it actually arise? What are its what are the preliminary steps? And what I am fascinated with is the simplicity of that process when you take being the good person seriously. It's like, sit down and feel yourself as a good person. Like, let it emerge like a little sprout in your consciousness. And then spend time watering that sprout, sitting with that sprout, literally feeling it. Because the second we go out into the day, right, it's all spontaneous or habitual thinking. It's all to dos. It's all sort of like societally imposed thoughts. Go to work, think about the money you've earned, think about how you're going to survive in this digital civilization. And so there's really not much time to sit down and sort of anchor into these deeper qualities. And so just knowing that that is a fundamental step in this process, writing out the mind, journaling about the mind, these habits that I think a lot of us in this circle are aware of, but the power of those habits. So cool. And that's kind of what we're developing in a practical space or a practical way. Awesome. Day two of 32. Love you guys. Y'all have a beautiful one and be good today.